A7, A6-3.
As a final requirement, we were asked to conduct an interview to certain personas and ask questions regarding topic that relates with their occupation's moral principles. I have chosen to interview a medical practitioner regarding the topic of euthanasia.
Hi everyone! I am Mrs. Rachel L. Saladaga. I'm already 47 years old. Batch 1993 from Emilio Aguinaldo College. A graduate of Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And I took my master's degree at Liceo de Cagayan University. Master's in Nursing, major in Nursing Administration. And way back in 2006, I took up my doctoral degree, Doctor of Science in Nursing, major in Gerontology Nursing. As I have remembered, euthanasia, in layman's term, is called mercy killing. We term this in our hospital as mercy killing. But we instruct the relatives of the patients to sign a consent called DAMA. DAMA is what you call discharge against medical advice, which is automatically considered as mercy killing. We have three types of mercy killing: passive, active, and physician-assisted euthanasia. Okay, in which a physician, assisted by a nurse like me, ends the life of the person who are suffering, okay, from incurable disease, or a terminally ill person can have or be granted of euthanasia. Euthanasia in the Philippines is the number 2 issue in the debate society. Okay? Most of them are in favor of euthanasia. But we are talking about euthanasia in the medical field. In the medical field, we use this to end the life of a person suffering from a certain disease. In my part as a nurse, I have experienced being in this field for almost 16 years. And I have been in the ICU for almost 3 years. And in the different part of the hospital, in the different field, I was on duty also in the neonatal intensive care unit, in which a mother will sign this form or this waiver to end the life of her child. Okay? So, the feeling of being a mother also, on my part, is it is very breaking. I cannot explain. There's no such word to describe. There's no word that I can describe your feeling when you sign this consent. This consent, you need to read, you need to think about, and you need to ask the opinion, not only the opinion, but the advice and the consent of your relatives. Especially if you still have a mother and a father. Okay. During that time, when one of the babies has this congenital abnormality, in which what you call microcephaly, that the skull of the baby was not yet formed, and they need to sign a consent that we need to end the baby's life at that moment, because of most of these babies nearly survive for 6 hours, 10 hours, or even 24 hours. They are put into a ventilator. They are assisted by a mechanical ventilator. And also, a lot of medicines was given per IV or intravenously. Now, most of these babies who are suffering from this kind of diseases are, I should say, we call them angels. Okay, they are our angels in heaven. Now, in signing this consent, you need to consult a lot of people, mother, the father, the relatives, and etc. Wherein, we will not give any treatment at all. We will not give any medications. We will not introduce any procedure to the patient. Okay, aside from that, if you are an ICU patient, okay, or you have a patient in the ICU wherein the patient is suffering from cancer. Cancer or even bone cancer is the most painful cancer that I have remembered and I have experienced in my hospital days or in the field of intensive care unit. Most of the patients have cancers. Most that I've handled have cancers. And the most painful nga is yung what you call suffering from bone cancer. Now, if the patient suffering from bone cancer, they have this pain reliever called morphine sulfate. Now, excessive use of morphine is what you call drug abuse or morphine abuse. Okay? And we may consider this therapeutic, but at the end, the pain will always be there. It will not be cured because if you will rate the intensity of pain on stage 1 up to stage 4, it is extremely increasing. Okay? And for this kind of treatments, we are encouraging those persons who have cancers to sign a consent, not to have any, okay, any treatments or any, that's what you call DNR, okay? When you say DNR, that is do not resuscitate consent. As same as mercy killing. Because if you will still do a CPR or the cardiopulmonary resuscitation, wherein you will apply chest compressions, okay, their bones will be broken, okay, especially on the chest. So, they need to sign a do not resuscitate, okay, which is also equivalent to your euthanasia, which means you are not allowed to do the treatment, to do any procedure, because the patient have signed their consent forms. Okay, another one is also, I say na, those who are tiguang na or those who are at their old age, they are not also advised to receive this CPR because the bones are so brittle and it can be easily be broken. Maybe they are alive or we have revived the patient, but the problem is, what if the patient has broken ribs or broken sternum or the broken breastbone? Okay, so they cannot still survive. Okay, in the Philippines, we have also considered euthanasia as a peaceful death. Okay, but the problem is most of the people in the Catholic bishops of the Philippines, the CBCP, they did not consider this as legal or ethical. It is considered immoral or considered as a mortal sin. Okay, so as I may say that euthanasia remains strictly prohibited in the Philippines, but we've been practicing this way back in the 1990s. Okay, just before, way back in the early 1980s, we are still practicing euthanasia up to now. And we have lessened this kind of incidents because of the fact that the technology or the innovations in the medical field is advancing or progressing. Okay, but okay, the Philippine Constitution of 1987, under the article of under Article number 2, Section 11, wherein the states value the dignity of the human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. They said that therefore, euthanasia contradicts the Hippocratic Oath and the Philippine Constitution. But legally, it is practiced in the Philippines. On my part, as a medical practitioner, okay, I therefore agree that euthanasia should be legalized in the Philippines because of the high cost of hospitalization. Imagine if you are suffering from COVID-19 and you will not sign a consent, okay, for euthanasia, for mercy killing, or what you call the discharge against medical advice, or that what you call that do not resuscitate consent or waiver, your hospital bills will be increasing, okay, as day passes by. Actually, when I am still in the hospital, actually until now, most of my relatives who are confined in the ICU, the amount that they are paying per day in the ICU, you are paying almost 25,000 per day. And when you say 25,000 per day, at this point wherein you are experiencing COVID-19 pandemic, where will you get that kind of money? And you think that you can survive COVID-19. If you are suffering from COVID-19, if you are in coma, for example, you are brain dead, and the symptoms with complications of COVID-19, I think you cannot survive the hospital bills. If you can live, or if you can survive this kind of disease, you will be paying for 150,000 to 200,000 if you have recovered. But we should be practical nowadays, because we need to think of that we have other things that we need to prioritize. What I mean is, most of us are having these kinds of if you are a father in a certain kind of family, you need to provide them for the basic needs, which is the physiological needs, mainly the food, the shelter, the water, and etc. And education is very expensive nowadays. Okay, so it should be highly prioritized by a breadwinner in the family. Now, if I will not be a nurse, or I may not be a medical practitioner, just a normal person without any knowledge about what is euthanasia, I should say that my principle will be changed, because only in the hands of God, in His time, the life of a human person will be given by our Savior, Jesus Christ. They will just say that we are not God, or we are not Jesus Christ. That's the mere complaint of most of the relatives of my patients. Who are you to say that this is the time of his death? Okay? So, I think that they need to change. There's a need, okay, to change. Okay, they are their ideals and their opinions about euthanasia. Because as of today, okay, as of today, most of the relatives are very practical. As I have observed in the different hospitals, when my relatives are being confined or when my relatives are, I should say, suffering from a certain terminally ill diseases, most of them are explaining that we should be practical nowadays because money, money, it's all about money. Every move, every single medicine that you need to buy, it will cost you 1,000. And to think of it that we don't have any income because of COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so thank you guys. I have shared what I have known about euthanasia and what I also experienced about euthanasia. And thank you so much, Miss Irah Mananggit, for giving me the opportunity to share my knowledge, to share my ideas, okay? And I'm really, really proud of you. I still remember that you are very, very efficient. You are very, very competent in your high school days. And may God bless you all. Thank you so much. And goodbye.
To sum it up, according to Nurse Ladaga, euthanasia is a form of mercy killing. It is administering a less painful death for the patient. However, as she has mentioned countless times, the family needs to give consent in order for the doctors and nurses to conduct and opt for euthanasia. But, as she said, if she weren't a nurse, she would not support euthanasia. As for her, God is the only person or the only being that should be able to decide whether a person should die or not. That's all. I hope we have all learned something from this video.